Microsoft claim that Flight Simulator 2024 is the largest undertaking that has ever been attempted in the genre, and whilst that certainly sounds like a bold claim, it's not that hard to believe, especially based on their latest revelations. What is in question, however, is just how successful they will be in pulling all of this off, and whether or not it will reach the heights they are aiming for. Currently then, there are around 800 people working on Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that isn't the only impressive stat. The 2020 edition of the sim has had over 15 million people playing it. That's not insignificant. Meanwhile, City Update 9, released yesterday, this update overhauled a variety of locations, including Washington DC and other areas, adding new high-detailed imagery as well as new photogrammetry. So, there's a whole load of new details in today's video. Let's start with Flight Sim 2024. Now, a lot of people have posted in the comments in my previous videos asking whether their purchases for the 2020 edition, that is purchases from the marketplace such as aircraft and airports, will work with MSFS 2024. Well, Microsoft have now officially confirmed the status on this, and whilst they've previously mentioned that yes, stuff will work, they haven't gone into too much detail on exactly what the process will be. Now, in the recent Flight Sim Expo 2024, recently held in Las Vegas, Microsoft took to the stage to discuss a whole variety of things to do with both the Flight Sim and the marketplace. In terms of moving marketplace purchases from 2020 to 2024, it seems this isn't entirely straightforward. It's exactly what they said about it. We'll start by migrating the entire 2020 marketplace catalogue to 2024, and it's important to note here that migrating is not the same as releasing. By migrating, we mean that content will be brought over to the 2024 pipeline, but not released. The migrated content will then be made available to the respective developers for functional testing, just like we do now for 2020, and content must have developer sign-off to be released in the 2024 marketplace. If we don't have developer sign-off, the migrated content is not released in 2024. So that's not quite as good as previously hinted at, where it was suggested that most things, if not all, would work with 2024, but it's also not as bad as it might initially sound. That said, it does beg the question of what happens with those products where the developer has either disappeared in the meantime or simply doesn't sign off. Yes, we know that they won't release in 2024, but that seems a little bit unfair for the people who have made the purchase. At any rate, here's the slightly more comprehensive picture of how all of this is going to work, based on the details that Microsoft have revealed and discussed. The entire 2020 marketplace catalogue then will be migrated over to 2024. Migration means content is brought into the 2024 pipeline but not released immediately. Migrated content will be available for developers to test for functionality. Developer sign-off is required for content to be released into the 2024 marketplace. Content without developer sign-off will not be released. And then we have content marking. That means migrated content will be marked as 2020 in the 2024 marketplace. So there will be labeling here just so that people very clearly understand what it is they either have access to or that they are purchasing. And in regards to user purchases, Microsoft say that users who purchased 2020 marketplace content will automatically own the new migrated version in the 2024 edition of the simulator, as long as that has been signed off by the developer. The opposite is also true. Any 2020 content that you purchase in the new sim will also grant ownership in the old version of the sim as well. So you'll have access to both versions just so long as both versions do exist. So that all seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Although there are a few caveats here and a few alternative options. One of them is that Microsoft will allow developers to charge for an upgrade to a 2024 improved version of any airplane or any airport or any other type of mod that's available on the marketplace. That is to say, more clearly, there will be the migrated version, so when you purchase something in 2020, it will be migrated over to 2024. That version you'll automatically have for free. But if the developer wants to add an additional new and improved version of the 2024 build, they will be able to do so, and there will be a fee for that if the developer so chooses. It all seems a little bit of a complex process, but hopefully from the user's point of view ultimately it will be pretty straightforward. Essentially what we will see as the end user is, when we go into the 2024 marketplace, there should be some content listed there with a 2020 badge, and that should really be the sum total of it. How well all of this ultimately works, we're going to have to wait and see. Microsoft have said there's over 4,000 items that need to be migrated from one sim to the other, so yeah, a lot of work to go on here. All of that though is for later this year when the new version of the sim is released on the 19th of November. Jumping back to the current age and day, City Update 9 has now been released. This features new updated aerial imagery, new digital elevation maps, as well as new tins, that's triangulated irregular network surface texturing. Now, the update includes Washington, DC, Buffalo, New York, Allentown, Pennsylvania, and East End of Long Island, New York. These are some pretty big areas. That's not to say that there's quite as many cities here as we've seen in previous city updates, but these, I guess, are some of the more popular destinations that people might want to explore over there in the US. Now, over the previous years, I've seen a lot of people comment that city updates, and indeed world updates, tend to focus on the Northern Hemisphere, and specifically the US as well as Europe for the most part. There's been a few areas outside of that, but they're few and far between. Now, some of the stats that Microsoft revealed at the Flight Sim Expo might, at least in part, explain that. They said that in terms of their marketplace, 43% of all purchases come from North America, another 43% come from Europe, with just 6% coming from Asia, and I guess that leaves 1% divided between the rest of the world. That obviously means that around about 86% of the Flight Sim players, at least in terms of those willing to make purchases, come from either North America or from Europe. Now, we do know that Microsoft have said in the past that one of the reasons we don't see much updates from the Southern Hemisphere is due to the lack of available data for them to use. But I suspect, and this is just personal speculation, that the data we just discussed, that's 86% of the players in the Northern Hemisphere, or at least the players willing to make purchases, yeah, that likely does have an impact on which updates Microsoft are willing to look at. So yeah, as I say, just speculation, but let me know what you think about that particular bit of speculation in the comments section below. I'd love to know your take on that issue. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching it all the way to the end. On screen is another video that you may want to check out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Take care.